Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee Chats with Economic Alliance, Snohomish County. I'm Angie Sievers. I'm the director of the Snohomish STEM Network, standing in for Gary Clark, President and CEO of Economic Alliance. Quite fitting today, as it's the State of the Schools Coffee Chat. Snohomish STEM does lots of community work with our school districts throughout Snohomish County, and just really excited to dive into conversation with many of them in Snohomish County and all of you. So welcome. As usual, hopefully you have your coffee or tea or water in hand and are ready to dive into some great conversation here. Please engage in dropping questions into chat. I'll help moderate those throughout the hour. And then take a moment to update your name. If you don't already have your organization following your name, we'd love to know where you're from. If you haven't joined us before, a great place to connect with all of our community. So I would like to just start. We're gonna hand this over to Everett Public Schools. They're gonna set the stage a bit and just kind of bring us up to speed on what's been going on with public schools. And then we'll follow that with a panel with a handful of our superintendents in Snohomish County. So with that said, I'd love to hand it over to Dr. Ian Saltzman with Everett Public Schools and his team to share some really valuable information with all of us at this time.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. And good morning, Angie, and good morning, everybody that's out there. It's an honor to be here today to talk about the state of the schools. But before I begin, the collaboration amongst school districts was outstanding the past 2 years. And those superintendents that are here today, we couldn't do without each other. So I want to make that publicly clear to thank everybody. My team is here today, and I'll introduce them as they go along presenting. They present, they'll introduce themselves. Again, I want to thank Angie, Katie, and especially Kathy Reeves that helps get us ready for all this good information. But we're excited to be here and to share with you what our school year was like. And I will tell you, the state of schools is off to a good start this year, but what an 18 months we had. To work in boxes and to work remote like everybody was an amazing challenge. But even though schools were not open, schools were not shut down. Teaching was going on, learning was taking place at a whole different rate and a whole different approach that we ever went to college for our teachers and for our staff. So we're going to share with you today what we went through and what the year ahead is looking like. And again, your support has been outstanding as a community. But again, when all superintendents can collaborate, it makes it better for the entire county. So again, I want to publicly thank those superintendents that are here today. They're outstanding friends and outstanding leaders. So thank you. I'm going to turn it over now to our deputy and to our CAO with their teams as they can begin the presentation. And we hope it's meaningful for you and that you learned something from our presentations today. So thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Peter Scott, and I am the Deputy Superintendent at Everett Public Schools, and happy to be here this morning. It's a privilege to talk a little bit through our district, kind of from the 30,000 foot level, and get a little bit into the year that was, as Dr. Saltzman described. 2021 was a year like no other, and then some exciting advancements and developments in 21-22 that we're eager to share with you. A little bit about us. We are a relatively large district of about 20,000 students. We span North Everett to North Bothell, so that's about 14 miles north to south. We've got 27 schools, plus our new Everett Virtual Academy, which you'll hear about in a little bit. We're really proud that we have a culturally diverse district. Our diversity is our strength, and it adds to the richness and perspectives, contributions that we want to be responsive to. We're also a linguistically diverse district. We have 94 different languages spoken at homes, in the homes of our students, Spanish being the second most spoken language. Also prominent are Russian, Arabic, Vietnamese, Marshallese, and Ukrainian, also spoken at home. And we serve over 1,000 homeless students last year. So that's a sobering, staggering number of students. who have needs with unstable housing, and the learning implications around how we want to wrap around our supports around those kids and families. What did last school year look like? So 2021, as you know, many businesses and organizations, I'm sure you can relate, had to look at new ways of doing things, and we did too. We have amazing administrators and staff and teachers who stepped up in unprecedented ways, and they really embrace new innovations and strategies to teach students remotely. Our superintendent, Dr. Saltzman, kept our eye on that term innovation, right? And doing things differently, partly because we had to in turn on a dime in March of 2020. And then looking at the resources that we do have, the rich human resources, material resources, how do we leverage those in different ways? That was really, if not daily, weekly and monthly reflection for us as an organization. A couple of highlights last year. We started the year in 100% remote learning. And as a result, we were paying attention to serving families' basic needs. And I'm sure everybody on this phone call can relate. There's a distance, right? There's a distance. Even this morning, if we were having this coffee chat in person versus Zoom, there's a distance to be mitigated. And we, again, leveraged our tools to be able to do that in some really effective ways. Basic needs, right? That Maslow's hierarchy. Meals were free thanks to the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Our Food and Nutrition Department bagged meals, breakfasts and lunches, provided drive-through meal pickup. They served nearly 2 million meals. And that's a really impressive and staggering number. On the whole, students and teachers adjusted to online learning well, as we look back retrospectively. They worked with new schedules, including hosting live classes on Zoom, which we're kind of doing now, our video conferencing system of choice. We call that synchronous learning, where teachers and students were in the same virtual room at the same time. And then we had a hybrid approach as well, where we were mitigating the social distancing requirements put forward by the state to get better at what we called asynchronous learning, guided independent learning, using our content management systems, pre-recorded lessons, which really expanded the notion of the school day to an all access, almost 24/7 accessibility system. You can see we hosted about 500,000 live Zoom meetings, lots of Canvas online discussions. Canvas was our content management system of choice. And it was also, if we have any higher ed partners on this call, we realized that Canvas is often used at the higher education level. So the connections and the fluidity of learning a system like that, being able to navigate, we think would serve our students well post-graduation, post-secondary. One thing that we learned from the beginning of the pandemic was that families wanted one portal. They wanted, information was coming at them, right? And they wanted information content in one place, because they were our, by default, in our circumstances, our partners, right? Parents have always been our partners in learning, but they were thrust into that front seat as well, right alongside us. And our community stepped up in some really inspirational ways. The progression of incrementally inviting more and more students back into the building had to do with several factors, right? So we've got health and safety factors. We have requirements from our state agencies, our state education agency, the Office of Superintendent of Public Instruction, as well as taking our cues from the Department of Health. the local Snohomish Health District. We developed some really strong partnerships with those folks. And so as the year progressed, we opened up our buildings in stages which we called hybrid. Some of these terms we think of as in the past, and maybe many of us would like to keep those terms in the past as a distance memory, because we don't want to go back to them. They were in many cases, these were not unlike what other districts were doing in the area across the country, really. Hybrid was a system where a portion of the week students would be learning in person, and then a portion of the week that they would be learning asynchronously at home. And again, that system we called hybrid was almost exclusively dependent on the social distancing rules set up by the state for schools. Here's just a snapshot, right? So January 19th, we moved to our first hybrid class, bringing in special education programs like developmental kindergarten, our Strive, our life skills students for whom this modality didn't often work well. February 8th, moving to what we called stage 3, bringing back kindergarten and first grade in hybrid. March 1, stage 4A, where grades 2 and 3. So it was an incremental approach. I know the same for our partners as well. 2 weeks later, on March 15th, we added grades 4 to 5 to the hybrid model. And then on April 19th, we brought back middle and high school students in a concurrent model. Of course, our middle and high school schools are our largest schools. Our middle schools average about 1,000 students. Our high schools average about 1,700 students, our largest being about 2,200. Again, limited by social distancing rules, we needed to limit the number of students in each classroom. So we started a concurrent instructional approach where teachers, for middle and high school teachers, students being cohorted, about half of the students in person, half of the students at home, and teachers teaching concurrently using this video conferencing modality and the content management system to teach their entire class. So what that did was we kept a continuity and a consistency for kids to have the same teachers and not have their schedules negatively impacted. So we were able to, stability, routine, consistency were huge things that we really wanted to continue to promote. Just briefly, here's some highlights of some things we learned, some things that we put into place. I mentioned Canvas as the portal for content. This is a place sort of where we had this virtual instructional core where teachers and students were meeting around content and instruction. We started a parent university, and this was a concept introduced to us by our superintendent, which is a video library created for for increasing parent navigation of systems. So those systems, we have to understand that systems in and of themselves can be difficult to navigate in some cases for parents. And so how do we break that down, particularly when we're constrained by social distancing, to make more accessible some of the steps, some of the health and safety steps, how to support your student in virtual learning, et cetera. How do I reset my passwords, and some really technical pieces. We launched a new website that had enhanced tools to post content that allowed for translations, and again, all in the name of accessibility. We very much elevated, and I know our partners, our neighboring school districts in the county did some amazing work in this area as well. Social emotional learning supports to ensure that the students' basic needs were met, because we were looking at them and interacting with them through these boxes in Zoom. How are we connecting with them? How are we referring them to greater and greater needs dependent on what they needed at home? And a new level of family engagement, increased surveys, online communication. We held kind of a series of two-way virtual connections that we called Let's Connect, around topics like how can we support you better in the remote learning environment? What additional tools do you need? Which was really informative and tried to be very responsive to what our community was telling us. And finally, we invested significant time engaging the community and staff on a new strategic plan. in a strategic plan that really, in a laser-like way, focuses on priority student outcomes. Our plan was developed collaboratively among all stakeholders, both internal and external, focusing on student needs based on what our achievement data was saying, our perceptual data was saying. And it really distills down into 6 priority student outcomes. And these outcomes are really sort of the compass that we are driven by as we continue to work to ensure that all of our stakeholders inside, outside of our organization and community, that they can both understand what we're after for the kids in our community, what we're committed to, and how they can locate themselves and their roles in achieving those. So you can see them there, ensuring early literacy, so that by 3rd grade, all students are reading at grade level and being able to write and be literate at a 3rd grade level by 3rd grade. Increasing science achievement, math achievement, reducing gaps in achievement among student groups, ensuring students are prepared to succeed in college and career, and strengthening student wellness, engagement, and safety.
Good morning. My name is Shelly Boaten, and I am the Chief Academic Officer here in Everett Public Schools. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about some of the other pieces that we've been developing in Everett Public Schools, and starting with our career pathways. In partnership with community stakeholders that represent business, labor, nonprofits, government, and higher education, Everett Public School staff identified some sectors around which to develop career pathways. Each of our career pathways include school-based learning, so courses specifically for that pathway. And then also we've embedded extended learning or career and technical student organizations, CTSOs, such as DECA, for example, and also a work-based learning opportunity such as internships, externships, mentorships, and youth apprenticeships. It's expected each of our high schools and some middle schools will actually host some exploratory courses aligned to each of the career pathways. The programs have been designed to so that a student will receive an industry recognized credential so they can step out of the program into the workplace, or they can use this experience as a foundation for continuing their post-secondary education. Some of these pathways, such as the careers in education or the business components, can be offered at any of our comprehensive high schools, but there are 3 pathways which require special facilities. And these are the aerospace and advanced manufacturing hosted at Cascade High School, medical and health careers hosted at Everett High School, and information and communication technologies hosted at Jackson High School. Our focus on these pathways really help us to achieve 3 of those student priority outcomes that Dr. Scott had mentioned, increasing both science and math achievement, but as well as ensuring students are prepared to succeed in both college and career. In addition, we have programs that include things like Career Link, and Everett Career Link is a partnership between Everett Public Schools. Excuse me, I'm going to hold for morning announcements really briefly.
Today is Thursday. Let's do this. Lunch.
Murphy's Law, right? It's okay. Work in place. So the wonderful thing about this situation, I was just thinking as Dr. Scott was describing all of the things that we've had to do in the last few years to adapt and be more welcoming, be more connected in a really challenging time. We have over 100 people here together, which I know wouldn't happen at 8:30 on a beautiful Tuesday, windy fall morning, if it was, just a quick meeting. So thanks to all for showing up. And Dr. Boaten, you're good to go. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. So our Career Link programs actually are a partnership with some of our Everett Public Schools in the city of Everett, and some regional employers that are designed to offer students the opportunity to learn before they earn by showing what it's like to work at a specific job environment and providing high school credits to students. The high school internships, mentorships, and the career exploratory experiences support the vitality of the region by providing students with an opportunity to access knowledge of the pathways to fulfilling careers, while at the same time providing employers opportunity to address workforce needs by working with potential future employees. We're very proud. We launched our dual language program. We have a dual language program hosted at Emerson Elementary School, and we've just started with 3 sections of bilingual kindergarten. And we've also started 2 STEAM choice programs at both Madison Elementary and Woodside. And I want to just take a moment to thank this organization for the feedback and insight that Everett Public Schools gains from our partnerships regarding the future of the region. This really helps us to refine and plan our programs and really think in a forward progressive manner. So we really appreciate that. I'd like to bring us to the fall of 2021. And, the one thing that we're really fortunate is we have a superintendent who has been focused on helping us to drive the work, bringing that strategic plan to the forefront and utilizing it as a tool to help us to sculpt and shape the future for our students. But this year we were really excited. The 21-22 school year, we started 100% in person. We also had an option for kindergarten through 8th grade students who would choose to participate in the new Everett Virtual Academy, which I'll speak about in just 1 minute. We were so ready to have our students back in the building, and they were very excited to be there. We knew, though, that many students would be nervous, and some of our youngest learners have never been in a school building before. In fact, many of our 2nd graders only had a half of a year of a regular school year before returning to school this fall. And so Dr. Salzman and our board were highly supportive in ensuring that we had the first 5 days of our school year were specifically focused around social emotional learning, making connections, learning class routines, and becoming engaged in person again. That was critically important. And we really wanted to make sure that we were setting aside the push for the academics and really helping students to learn how to do school again. We've been very successful with that, and we're really proud of the work that we've done in helping to craft a more positive and caring climate and culture for our students. So we also wanted to ensure that we were being really intentional around communicating the protocols with our families. Social distancing standards were moved from 6 feet to 3 feet, and to the extent possible that we could accommodate that, masking is still required on all sites, and K-12 public school employees were required to get a vaccination as a condition of employment. Many of our other details we included in the COVID family handbook and posted that on our website so that our families would be very clear in how we were helping to not only ensure the academic success of their students, but safety and security were a priority. And we wanted to make sure that families felt confident in returning their students to school. And then we were very excited to have our Everett Virtual Academy that we provided because we had many families who were very concerned. We have a lot of families who are multi-generational families, families with concerns, young families with concerns of immunocompromised people who are living within the household. And up until recently, our students who are under the age of 11 did not have an opportunity to be vaccinated. And so for those reasons, we decided to offer Everett Virtual Academy, which is a kindergarten through 8th grade program. And we created this as an online school this summer as an alternative for families, and we've actually had a great reception. We closed the registration at the end of August to ensure staffing was adequate, and the enrollment is just under 700 students. Well, we thank you for the opportunity to come and share with this fabulous organization. We've been really excited and very proud about the opportunities and work that we've been engaging in this year. And we have some opportunities. Angie, if I turn it back over to you, if there are any questions or concerns or anything that we can respond to, we'd be happy to do that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Boaten, Dr. Saltzman, Dr. Scott, and Kathy for collecting some really valuable information. A lot of planning, a lot of implementation, and I would just say in summary, like the predictability you create makes it so much easier for students and for families to plan and feel safe in this unique time. So thank you for all the updates and all of your hard work. And that's just a wonderful platform to pivot into a panel that we have here with Dr. Ian Saltzman from Everett Public Schools, Dr. Allison Brynelson from Mukilteo School District, Dr. Gustavo Balderas from Edmonds School District, and Dr. Justin Blasco from Monroe School District. So we're just going to dig into some good conversation. I'm going to encourage everyone attending to just drop in questions you have. We'll do our best to make this a bit of a conversation. But certainly I know all of these individuals have some things that they're excited to share with you. So with that, I'd like to kick it off. Dr. Brynelson, I'm just going to start with asking each of you to briefly share something unique about your school district that you'd like us all to know.
Thanks, Angie. I think what I would share, I would have a lot to share about Mukilteo, but what's unique about us is that actually 60%, we serve about 60% of Everett students, meaning Mukilteo School District sounds like we just serve the city of Mukilteo, but actually we have 60% of our kids are from Everett or unincorporated Snohomish County. And then of course we have Boeing and Painfield in the middle of our district, which makes us unique. Sure.
Absolutely, shared community for sure. Dr. Balderas, good morning.
Morning, thanks for having me here, and great to see fellow superintendents. Beginning my second year here in the Edmond School District, and as stated, we serve 5 municipalities as well as unincorporated Snohomish County, the largest district in Snohomish County, 129 languages, 22,000 kids. 53% of our kids are kids from diverse backgrounds. So we serve a very unique community, a very unique district because of the varied communities. So something that we are working towards, like Dr. Salzman and my other colleagues, is looking to continue to push our systems to be to meet the needs of kids. So this year we opened up 2 dual language academies, and also we do have a K-12 remote. We stood up a K-12 remote academy this year for about again 1,200 kids that are attending that academy to provide them that service for families that wanted to keep kids to keep kids at home and not bring them into schools because of the current pandemic. So very grateful for these 3 that are on the screen because they're our thought partners. And literally we talk each day, and that's been a great connection here in Snohomish County.
Thank you, Dr. Balderas. Dr. Blasco?
Yeah, thanks for having me on the panel as well today, representing the Monroe School District. We are considered a mid-sized district in the state of Washington. So my colleagues in Edmonds, Mukilteo, and Everett are considered larger school systems. So we have just over 5,000 students. We were very impacted by the pandemic. We are one of the most impacted school districts as far as population goes for our student population. We lost almost 800 students, full-time equivalent students, after the initial lockdown. And so one of the things that we've really been driven to take on is just some of the pieces that the Everett team presented so well, and that's around communication and connection with our community. We cover about 72 square miles in East County. Our borders touch North Shore School District, Snohomish School District, Lake Stevens School District, and Sultan School District. We have 2 schools in the Maltby area, so almost on the border of the Snohomish-King County, which is on the other side of the Snohomish River from Monroe proper, and very terrible traffic. So some of the things that we're dealing with as a system are over 1 hour bus rides for our students that we transport from the Monroe area out to the Maltby area, who get stuck in the commuting traffic in the morning. And so some of our challenges. I think one thing that I would want to highlight that hasn't really been talked about today, but is very integral to the success of us as public entities, is our relationship with our varying associations, our teachers associations, teachers unions, our classified unions. So everything that was talked about today had to be negotiated in terms of impact to contracts. And that's one thing that you listen to the presentation from Everett, and everything is out in front and meeting the needs of kids. And at the same time, we have multiple unions who are meeting with us who are representing a variety of individuals. And just as we've seen within the media, there are a lot of opinions. And at times I thought that our unions had a heavier lift than we did. We had direct mandates from the government and from our local elected school officials, but the unions had to represent every teacher, every classified staff member, every school bus driver. And on the other side of that, we sat on the other side of that and had to work together to figure out how to keep people safe and how to raise that confidence within our employee groups. And as you're all aware, I'm very proud to be a part of public education, as we were one of the first industries really to start back in person serving children. We could not have done that without the relationships that exist in all of our districts with our labor groups. And so that's another factor, I think, for all of you business-minded individuals to think about. When we talk about meeting the needs of students, we definitely, that's our driving force. And within that, there's a lot of conversations, a lot of dialogue, a lot of negotiations in order to make sure that people feel confident and safe in our safety procedures. I think Dr. Salzman said when he opened up, we've dealt with a lot of things as superintendents that no one ever taught us in any of the programs or preparation systems that we went through. I had no idea what a MERV 13 filter was until the last couple of years. A rating system for how well it filters. I understand that now. It's a high level filtration system, but there's a lot of things that we've had to adapt to in order to accomplish that goal of serving the students in our local communities. And again, I would echo what Dr. Brenelson said. Just thank you for your support. Thank you for really participating in our processes. And we as school systems, we do what we can to understand what the will of our communities are. And the more that you can participate in that, the better informed we can be. I know that Dr. Scott talked about the visioning process for their strategic plan. And as business leaders, it's really important for us to have your voice a part of that process as we shape our intentionality and our plans forward for our kids. So it's great to be here with all of you and to connect in this way, and just appreciate this opportunity this morning.
Thank you, Dr. Blasco.
May I,
Yeah.
after listening to my fellow
Absolutely.
colleagues, I feel compelled to share a little bit more facts about Mukilteo. So I'm just going to go back and say we have about 15,000 students. We actually are the host district for the wonderful, awesome Snow Isle Tech Skills Center. I see Trudy on there. We have over 100 languages spoken in our district. We're about 50% free and reduced lunch. 36% of our student population are white and about 30% are Latinx. So we are also a very diverse community as well. So I just wanted to fill in a couple gaps. Now that I know what the standard has been set, I'll be more verbose in my answers.
It helps us know the community you're serving. Thank you so much. And I would just point out, we've all come together this morning. You're sharing information with community-based organizations that Economic Alliance and Snohomish STEM works with regularly. Wraparound services, learning services, childcare services, strategy. I mean, at the leadership level, behind the scenes, how do we make all these systems work? So, as well as business. So what you described in having to wear hats and shoes and do things that we were never trained to do, we're all living that in our own unique space. And boy, the four of you were thrust into, and all the superintendents in Snohomish County were thrust into this head first. So thank you for hanging in there, your leadership and your collaboration and learning from each other in this process. So I'm going to ask each one of you just one thing. What's going well in your district? This has been challenging. What did you learn? What's one thing, one thing you want your community to know that's going well?
Well, I'll start if it's okay, because Justin, you were amazing. Well, first of all, before I say anything, I want the community to know you have amazing superintendents here. I mean, people I work with every day, like Gustavo and Allison and Justin and many more, that collaboration is key. I think what's really going well in my district is two things that stand out. Total transparency, that everything that we've done is out there. I mean, you saw the presentation today, but we embarked on a strategic plan during COVID, where many thought we were insane, is the word I'm going to use, and the comments like, how can you do it during this time? But you can't have a roadmap and go nowhere with it. You have to have a roadmap with a destination. So the strategic plan was developed with a lot of input from our stakeholders and a lot of input that really helps us move the needle for students. And that strategic plan will be a 5-year plan that will help us drive the work. The other piece is that when you talk to kids, they're all glad to be back. And what a heavy lift it was last year when kids were in boxes, just like in our jobs, right? They didn't get to see other kids, and the emotional toll, it's going to go on for many years. So one thing that I'm proud about, the kids are back, our teachers are doing an amazing job teaching. We have social workers in our regions. We have guidance help. So there's a lot of things that I'm proud about. The strategic plan really helped embark on that journey. And the communication's been outstanding by our communications department and our staff.
Thank you, Dr. Saltzman. Dr. Balderas?
I think the one thing I want to share is just the resiliency of our staff and kids. I think as Dr. Saltzman mentioned, as Ian mentioned, we're so happy to have our kids back. When you walk into our schools, all right, you ask that, the kids are just happy to be back. Teachers are back, are happy to be back, just seeing kids. I think just a resiliency of just not the kids, but the faculty, but also the community. This is our 3rd year of having to deal with COVID in our public schools. Say it one more time, this is the 3rd year we've had to deal with COVID in public schools. And these kids that are in 2nd grade, this is all they've known. This is all they've known is COVID. So these kids has had a traumatic impact on their learning. And it's something that we're going to be working through this for years to come. And but the resiliency of our kids, our staff, and our community, just with great appreciation. We'll get through this, and we are getting through this. But again, it's just that happy to have our kids back on our campuses.
So agree with that. And I'm going to come back to a point you made, Dr. Balderas, at the end. Dr. Bernelson.
I'm going to actually go a different avenue on this question. So many of you, I know a lot of people on the call, I've been in the district this is my 24th year. So my 7th different leadership position in 24 years. So I'm kind of an anomaly in that I now get to lead the ship that I kind of helped create for a long time. And what I realized in August, or actually this summer, is we have 80 administrators on our administrative team, and 44% of them have been here 5 or fewer years. So you have new administrators that come in and say, why do we do it this way? Or why is it this way? And so I took a long time, and I actually researched and created the story of Mukilteo from Allison's perspective. And I went back to the teacher strike in 1990, which was the longest teacher strike in the history of the state of Washington during that time, which resulted in collaborative decision-making. And then we had a population burst, and so we had 4 schools open in a 2-year period, and our boundaries actually went east-west, which caused the perception of the have and the have-nots. And so I told this story all the way through the pandemic. And I said, we did not change very much pre-pandemic, and then how much we changed as a system tenfold in the 1.5 years we were in the pandemic. And that it's time that we reinvent who Mukilteo is. We're very different than what we were 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago. And the first step in creating our new Mukilteo is knowing that we are one Mukilteo. We're not a north-south. We're not a have-nots. We're not administrators against teachers. We're collaborative with our community and our students and our families. We're going to seek input. It's not going to just be one way, and we're going to reinvent together. So we are working on the one Mukilteo theme, and knowing that we're just very different now. And it's an exciting opportunity to know what we stand for and how we're going to move forward with supporting students. So I'm going to say from my perspective that at least that work has started.
Thank you, Dr. Brynelson. Dr. Blasco.
I have only been a superintendent in COVID, so I'm a lot like the second graders that Dr. Balderas described. So it's an interesting, something that you work for. I was a teacher and a principal and a central office leader, and now a superintendent. So I've only led in COVID, and there's been some missteps and mistakes, as oftentimes new leaders make. And I think what I would look at as a success in Monroe is that the pandemic and continuing to work through the issues that are in front of us and the challenges is we have really emerged with that collaborative sense. Allison talked about, Dr. Brynelson talked about that in Mukilteo, is really that collaborative sense of problem solving. And I would just echo some of the things that you've already heard from my colleagues. Individually, I don't think any of our teachers or paras or bus drivers or superintendents, for that matter, could make it through this without professional collegiality, professional collaboration. And I've seen that strengthened in this time, where we understand, and Dr. Balderas is right. We all know that kids need to read by the end of third grade. The empirical evidence demonstrates that time and time again. If our students are not reading by the end of third grade, it's tough sledding from that point on. We have a lot of challenges and work to do. And if you think about second graders who have only experienced, and Dr. Scott described this, synchronous learning, asynchronous learning, hybrid learning, and now in-person learning, the data is starting to come back, and that data could be very overwhelming. We're not on track where we would like to be. Some of the things that we're seeing, especially from our more diverse schools, is, we have a lot of challenging situations and circumstances, and yet there's a can-do attitude that exists in our schools right now. One thing that, probably staffing continues to be an issue. We've lost our substitute pools, and so there's challenges every day. And every day I hear stories of teachers just stepping up and helping other teachers, paraeducators, that's our classified staff, our teaching support staff, stepping into things that they probably never thought that they would do. I was visiting our transportation department last week, and there's just, and I appreciated this from the Everett presentation. People can see themselves in the work. They see the contributions that they're making for the betterment of our kids in the community. And, Snohomish County has been, Snohomish Economic Alliance has described that. There's a grit that this county was built off of, right? Really some challenging situations and circumstances that we've made it through as a county. And I see that in our school district, just a can-do attitude and a willingness to roll up the sleeves and do what we need to do to serve the kids. Not where we think they should be, but meet them where they're at. And so that's definitely something that's a highlight for me coming through this pandemic.
And we see, as a community, we see resilience in all of you and your districts in engaging students and parents, school board members, like you all described the open channels, the opportunity for input to help us as community members, you as leaders, your staff understand where those gaps are that we weren't seeing before, and times have changed. So it's reset the entire table. And in a way, yeah, super challenging, but a breath of fresh air, and that we get to look at it in a new way. And there's a question that popped up in the chat. I'm just going to ask one of you to address this one. Timothy asked, can you touch on some of the facility adjustments you had to make to accommodate in-person instruction just social distancing, classroom layout, PE, ventilation, all the infrastructure and spacing.
I'm just going to start off by saying the first thing we had to do was have teachers remove stuff from their classrooms, and that was very traumatic, especially for elementary teachers who love all their stuff. But right off the bat, the stuff had to go away, and it had to be, I'm going to say this sounds negative, but I don't mean it to be more clinical, to be able to fit the amount of desks that needed to be in there that were social distance at first, which was 6 feet. So that right there was pretty traumatic for some of our educators. And I will kick it on to maybe Justin to talk more about the MERV filters. I agree. I don't even know what a MERV filter is, but I have heard nothing but MERV filters.
Yeah, so that one of the things that was recommended nationally and locally was to maximize air circulation. That was, and so one of the things that we did early on was we had an outside entity come in and do an evaluation of our HVAC systems. Like many school districts, we have very new buildings and we have very old buildings, and some of the systems, you can't even get parts for, right? Like some of the systems that we have in our buildings, we are literally buying replacement parts off of eBay. Duct tape and baling wire. Alice and I grew up in Alaska, so blue tarps, duct tape, and baling wire. It's functional, but we had to maximize all those things in certain situations. Sticking to this, the air circulation, we purchased HEPA filters for some of the areas that did not meet either our own level of comfort or, as I said before, working in collaboration with some of our labor partners. There were concerns that were voiced to our labor partners that they represented to us, and at times where, if you're right on that line of acceptability, you want people to feel safe, and I think that was part of it, is making sure that you're aligning to the recommendations, because the more we could align to the recommendations, the easier it was to have those conversations with people that it was safe for us to be in person. And we all, as educators, we all saw, the limitations of synchronous and asynchronous and distance learning, and we all wanted to get our kids back in schools in person. And so the pathway there really became apparent quickly, is to align our facilities with the recommendations that were coming out of the health department.
And the silver lining is not only is it safer, but all of those with allergies were feeling a whole lot better as well. Question in the chat around vaccination clinics for the younger kids in the last few days here where all this news came out. Everett had a couple of clinics set up, or appointment options that were full within minutes. Looks like Mukilteo. Oh, does somebody want to speak to this partnership?
I'll talk about it for a minute and give it back to the communications team. First of all, this was a true collaboration. Okay, Everett, Mukilteo, Edmonds, we all worked exclusively hard to make sure this happens for the kids. Okay, so all 3 districts worked on that. We had Justin working in his district as well, but this is where collaboration hits the road right there, working together. I do want to share with the community very briefly that we want to get vaccines for our kids. Okay, we are working extremely hard to make sure that we continue having these clinics. It went quickly. This is where communities and schools work together to get the message out. What more can we do with the health district? We have an amazing health district, but we do have to get these vaccines for our kids. A lot of our parents can't get to the doctors during the day. Okay, so whatever we can do together to advocate that we get vaccines at our school centers and have clinics, so it's equitable across the entire state, not just from one region to another region. So, and I have to hats off to all the communications directors that helped make this happen for us, because they did an amazing job helping us get this, and the nurses, what they're doing, working with Seattle nurses and so forth. And I also just want to say to the community that you can't do this work unless you have great school boards. Think about what they went through during this time. Okay. We're very blessed to have great school boards out there because not only is it on the teachers and the parents and the bus drivers and the superintendents and the assistant super and everybody, but how about the boards that have to address many things right now? So I am apolitical, but I do want to say this to our fine community. Let's not procrastinate and let's vaccinate and let's help the babies. Okay. These are the babies that need us. That is our job. That is our moral obligation as educators and community. So I'm going to use that motto until I get every kid vaccinated in my district and every district across America that want to get vaccinated, Let's not procrastinate. Let's get vaccinated and let's get our babies out there first. And across the nation, I'm going to advocate for that. So I just want to say that publicly.
We love your enthusiasm, Dr. Sultan. Thank you.
Angie, I can talk to the local partnership that we have in Monroe. We have a local pharmacy that we've worked with. They assisted us with getting our teachers vaccinated early on. So we are actually at the point, I think all of us are at the point that we are getting to the 6-month level for the boosters. So we actually have a booster clinic for our staff members this Friday. With the same pharmacy that we've been in partnership with. Again, we're a smaller school system. I was actually communicating with Dr. Salzman, Dr. Brindleson, and Dr. Balderas. My concern is that we have a student vaccination clinic happening this Saturday. We're hosting that here at the district office. It was like a rock concert. The slots filled up in less than 3 hours. And what concerns us about that is that those are our internet savvy parents, right? Who's going to get vaccinated this Saturday? Our internet savvy parents, students, they're going to get vaccinated this Saturday. Supply and demand, as Ian suggested, we don't have enough access to vaccination doses right now for everyone who wants it to have access to it. So those are the challenges. We're in that supply challenge right now. But again, I wanted to highlight that is a relationship with a local pharmacy, not a national pharmacy, a local pharmacy that we've worked with. We have been partners with them for a long time. They've provided us our flu shots in our schools. And when we ended up in this pandemic, we leveraged that relationship, and we were able to provide that for our staff members here. And again, we'll have. I did not sign up for a booster because I want to make sure my frontline folks have that booster first. So all of those slots are taken on Friday, and then on Saturday we will be open here for a vaccination clinic for students. But again, there's a lot of demand for that, and that's something that we're going to have to continue to manage and to really work. I'm envious of the collaboration between my 3 partner districts over there, but I think that gives this group a sense of what that means. Each of us is having to figure that out, and it feels like that's kind of different between counties, and that's no disrespect to our Department of Health here in Snohomish County. It's just a different angle on that. But again, that's another one of those logistics pieces that as educators. If you would have talked to me 5 years ago, I never would have thought that I would be trying to procure student vaccinations and provide clinics for students as part of my responsibilities and moral obligation to keep my kids safe in the school district. And yet that's the situation that we find ourselves in right now.
So I wanted to let you know, Dr. Balderas messaged me a little bit ago. He ran out of power, so he didn't just drop you guys. He was in a offsite location, and he thanked all of you for being part of this conversation with him. There's a quick question I want to address in the chat, how the pandemic has impacted career pathway programs and how we're continuing to adapt to navigate through the pandemic. As a STEM network director, I would just say that learning is taking place in schools, and our higher education partners are doing an amazing job keeping it as real as they can. The challenge is getting students in the workplace for that hands-on learning experiences. There are more barriers than have existed in past, and we are constantly working on pushing that line as we're able, as it's safe. And so here we are 5 minutes before our hour's up. I'd like to give each of you an opportunity, maybe 30 seconds to a minute at the very most. What can your community do to support you and your district and your community in, I'm just going to say, addressing the point that Dr. Balderas made in the, I'm going to say gap that's going to affect all of us in the next few years as we continue on. There's a difference we're going to see. How can we all support you in keeping that bar high, keeping learning high quality, engaging, and pushing forward in Snohomish County? Dr. Saltzman?
Okay, 30 seconds. Literacy. We have to have a message of literacy in our communities. You know, we have STEM programs, we have pathways, we have great work, but when you can read, you can do anything. And as a community, we have to take the message of literacy. That's how we're going to get kids not only caught up, but we're going to send that message for years to come. Books in kids' hands. Everybody has a book, access to the libraries that we keep doing, and whatever else we can do with your brain trust, if we have to open up libraries in the evenings, but literacy. And then in closing, we have to encourage our communities to let our schools be open to get youngsters vaccinated so we can beat this, okay? So by March, we have a clear path that everybody who wanted to be is vaccinated. And a big thank you to everybody that's on this call today, because we couldn't do without you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saltzman. Dr. Velasco, 30 seconds.
I think there's a lot of opportunities to be involved in our school district. I think most all of us are either preparing for, or our boards have already approved levies that are going to be coming up here in February. Be involved with your school district. I think my belief, the reason that I'm here is I believe public education to be a cornerstone of our democracy. And a democracy is participatory. And I think there's a lot of ways to do that. I'm very proud of our after hours programs. We've got a drama event happening Friday and Saturday that I'm attending on Saturday. We've had some great success in this fall sports season, and really working to make things normal. That's what we talk about here is how can we have some normal experiences. You would have been stunned by the creativity. We didn't talk about this, but homecoming, what we all did for homecoming to create an experience for our high school students to actually have homecoming this year because they've missed it. You think about those things that you think back to in your high school experiences, and how do we make those things normal? How do we participate in that as local community members? Lots of ways to get involved. We've got foundations that support our schools with the things that we can't do with public funds. We're going to have some committees. We're going to Dr. Salzman's. We have curriculum committees. There's a lot of ways to get involved in the school district. You are all successful people. We would love to have your brain power collaborating with us on how to make our schools better as we move forward.
Thank you for the invitation. Dr. Bernelson?
Yeah, I agree with what Ian and Justin said, so I will add something new. We are very, very short-staffed. So those of you that were on here early know that superintendents are now subbing in classrooms. I taught first grade yesterday. Hadn't been a teacher in 25 years in the classroom and never taught elementary, but the key to it is don't be scared. Don't let them show that you're scared. Don't show fear. But in seriousness, we have a lot of data, I'm sure the other districts as well, and we lost 53% of our substitute classified staff over the summer. So less than half of our substitutes in classified food service, transportation, paraeducators did not come back, and certificated, we lost 49%. So half our substitute workforce went away over the summer. And so we kind of started in the hole to begin with. And it's just gotten very dire. I'm sure it's like that for a lot of your organizations as well. But anything you can do to get the word out that we're hiring, that would be awesome. Thanks, Angie.
We hear you. Yes. I'm just going to cap this with in our work in the STEM network and with education partners, with community, talking with parents, hearing from students, there is a need and a connection in instilling a growth mindset and a calling for lifelong learning, to be curious, to challenge status quo, to never accept something that isn't serving us or a neighbor or a friend. So thank you all for your leadership in that space and engaging your communities in that space. Attendees, thank you for being with us this morning. I wanted to invite you to the State of the Station, November 10th from 1:30 to 2:30. It's our annual event where we talk about what's happening at the Port of Everett and Navy Station Everett. And then I believe, Katie, do we also have a coffee chat? Yep, November 16th, 8:30 a.m. How to lead during messy times. It'll be a fun conversation. Thank you all for being with us, your engagement and your interest in our schools in Snohomish County. Have a wonderful Tuesday.